Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we plunge into the most fascinating stories, pulling out those surprising nuggets that really make you well-informed.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're tackling a foundational myth of Westerosi history, one that even seasoned lore enthusiasts often get slightly wrong.
Oh, yeah. Which one's that?
When you think of after the Conquest or before the Conquest, you naturally assume Aegon's reign, and thus the Jading system, began the moment he landed on Westeros.
Right. That's a very common misconception. The Maesters of the Citadel, who literally keep the histories, tell us that Aegon Targaryen's reign, the start of AC, officially began 2 years after his landing.
2 years later,
Yeah,
at his Old Town coronation.
exactly. Which means, and this is the kicker, much of his actual conquering, the fiery, dramatic bits we all love, occurred in what's officially 2 to 1 BC. Before the Conquest, technically speaking.
Wow. Okay, so right off the bat, the timeline itself is kind of counterintuitive. That alone tells me this straightforward story is anything but. So what are some of the biggest surprises when you really unpack Aegon's conquest?
Well, I think the whole thing is more nuanced than just dragons burning everything. There's foresight, politics, diplomacy.
Our mission today, then, is to unpack that incredible, monumental story of Aegon Targaryen and his sisters. We'll peel back the layers of myth, get to the surprisingly complex truth. It really is a rich tapestry, isn't it? Foresight, cunning, diplomacy, and yes, brutal force. So many characters and choices that shaped a whole continent.
Indeed. And it starts way back with the Targaryens in Valyria. They were dragon lords, sure, pure Valyrian blood, but it's important to remember they weren't the most powerful house within the freehold. Not by a long shot.
Really, not the top dogs.
Nope. Valyria at its peak was unbelievable. The greatest city, center of civilization, but internally you had 40 rival dragon lord houses constantly vying for power. A real snake pit, probably.
Like 20 houses. Okay, so dragon lords, yes, but maybe middle-tier dragon lords. How did that position shape things for them? Because there's this one moment, this decision, that changes everything for the Targaryens. And it happens long before Aegon with Daenys the Dreamer.
Exactly. 12 years before the Doom of Valyria, so we're talking 114 BC, Daenys, who is Aenar Targaryen's maiden daughter, had this prophetic dream.
The one about Valyria being destroyed by fire.
That's the one. She saw it all.
Yeah.
And Aenar, well, he believed her. He made this incredibly radical decision to act on that dream, sold everything they owned in Valyria, all their holdings.
Everything, just based on a dream.
Everything. Packed up his entire family, wives, wealth, slaves, kin, even their dragons, and moved lock, stock, and barrel to Dragonstone, this island outpost on the edge of the known world.
Imagine doing that, selling up, leaving the center of the universe based on your daughter's nightmare.
Yeah.
His rivals must have thought he was mad or a coward.
Oh, they definitely saw it as cowardice, a surrender. But then, 12 years later, boom, the doom hits Valyria, cataclysmic destruction. And guess who's left?
The Targaryens, the only dragon lords to survive.
Exactly. Suddenly, Daenys' vision is validated in the most horrific way possible. It completely sets them apart.
And Dragonstone itself, it wasn't just some random rock, was it? It had history.
Right. It had been a Valyrian outpost for 2 centuries already. Strategically vital, too. It sits right there in the gullet, controlling the narrow sea passage. Gave them a stranglehold on Blackwater Bay.
Ah, so good for trade.
Very good. The Targaryens and their close allies, also Valyrian houses, the Valyrians of Driftmark and the Celtigars of Claw Isle, basically dominated the trade coming through there, filled their coffers quite nicely.
And for a whole century after the Doom, the so-called Century of Blood, they just stayed there, looking east.
Pretty much. They seemed to take very little interest in Westeros itself during that time. The power struggles were happening back towards Essos.
Amazing. Just managing their island, their trade routes. The Dragonstone line continued, though, from Aenar and Daenys.
Yep. Through their son Gaemon the Glorious, he was Daenys' brother and husband, remember the Valyrian custom?
Right, the incest. Keep the bloodline pure.
And then through a few more lords of Dragonstone, eventually down to Aerion, who was Aegon's father. And that's when things start to shift. With Aegon, the focus turns west.
Okay, so let's talk about Aegon himself. Born on Dragonstone, 27 BC, son of Lord Aerion and Lady Valena Valerian. She was half Targaryen too, right?
Correct. And he had 2 sisters, true-born sisters, Visenya the elder and Rhaenys the younger.
And following that Valerian tradition, he married them. But marrying both sisters, that was a bit unusual, wasn't it? Even for Valyrians.
It wasn't unprecedented, but yeah, definitely unusual. It certainly raised eyebrows. There were whispers, naturally.
What kind of whispers?
That he married Visenya out of duty, you know, the elder sister, the tradition, but he married Rhaenys out of desire, passion.
Interesting. And all three were dragon riders.
Oh, yes. Key point. Of the original 5 dragons Aenar brought from Valyria, only one survived to Aegon's time. The legendary Balerion the Black Dread.
The big one.
The biggest. But Vhagar and Meraxes, the dragons ridden by Visenya and Rhaenys, they were younger, hatched right there on Dragonstone. That connection, their dragons, was central to their power.
Now, about Aegon of Westeros, before the Conquest, there's this idea he'd never even been there. But that's wrong.
Completely wrong. We know for a fact he commissioned the Painted Table. This massive, 50-foot-long, carved and painted map of Westeros. Detailed. Accurate.
50 feet. Okay, that's not someone with a casual interest. That's serious planning.
Exactly. It shows a long-standing focus. And we have reliable reports, maester accounts of Aegon and Visenya visiting the Citadel in Old Town, even going hawking on the Arbor and the Reach. He wasn't just looking at a map, he was scouting, seeing it for himself.
That adds another layer to him. He seems like such an enigma, even back then. What was he actually like?
Hard to pin down. He was apparently a skilled warrior, had the Valyrian steel sword Blackfire, but didn't seem to enjoy fighting. Never rode in tournaments, that sort of thing.
Huh. Odd for a conqueror.
Right. Flew Balerion, but only for battle or, getting somewhere fast. He had this commanding presence, drew people to him, but wasn't chummy. Few close friends. Only Orys Baratheon, his rumored half-brother and childhood friend.
And faithful to his sisters, despite obviously attracting attention.
Seems so. And as a ruler, he delegated a lot of the day-to-day stuff to his council and his sisters. But when a big decision was needed, he made it. No question.
So decisive when necessary. What about his famous temper? Harsh with rebels.
Definitely harsh with defiance, but surprisingly open-handed, even generous, with former enemies who bent the knee. It's a fascinating mix. Strength, yes, but also pragmatism. He understood how to build loyalty after the fighting stopped.
That's a really key insight. It's not just fire and blood. Now, his sisters, Visenya and Rhaenys, they sound like total opposites. Tell us about Visenya first.
Visenya, yeah, very different. She was a warrior, just like Aegon. Comfortable in mail, carried her own Valyrian steel sword, Dark Sister.
Dark Sister, cool name.
Isn't it? She had the classic Valyrian look, silver gold hair, purple eyes, but her beauty was described as harsh, austere, stern, serious, unforgiving. There were even rumors she dabbled in poisons, dark sorceries.
Ooh, spicy. But loyal to Aegon.
Unquestionably loyal. She was the duty-bound one, the enforcer, perhaps.
And then Rhaenys, the younger one. What was her deal?
Almost the complete opposite of Visenya. Playful, curious, impulsive, loved music, dancing, poetry. Patron of the arts, you could say.
Not really a warrior type.
Not a warrior like Visenya, no. But she apparently spent more time on Dragonback than Aegon and Visenya combined. Just loved flying Meraxes. There's that story she wanted to fly west, across the Sunset Sea, just to see what was there.
Wow. An explorer spirit. And the whispers about her. Different from the dark, magic rumors around Visenya.
Oh, yeah. Whispers said Rhaenys liked to surround herself with handsome young men, poets and singers and such. Maybe entertained a few in her chambers. Nothing confirmed, of course, just rumors.
Different vibes entirely.
Right.
And it said Aegon preferred her company.
The histories say the king spent 10 nights with Rhaenys for every one he spent with Visenya. Make of that what you will. Her influence might have been softer, more cultural maybe, but definitely significant.
So that's the core trio, Aegon, Visenya, Rhaenys, the conquerors. Now, let's paint the picture of Westeros just before they arrived. A fractured land.
Very fractured. 7 independent kingdoms, always squabbling, often at war. You had the Starks up in the north, the Martells down in Dorne, the Lannisters with their gold in the west, the Gardeners in the fertile Reach, the Arryns ruling the Vale from the Eyrie.
Standard fantasy setup almost. But for Aegon, sitting on Dragonstone, 2 neighbors mattered most, right? The closest ones.
Exactly. The 2 most belligerent neighbors, Harren the Black and Argilac the Arrogant.
Argilac the Arrogant. Great name. He was the Storm King.
That's him. Last of House Durrandon, ruling from Storm's End. His kingdom had been shrinking for ages, squeezed by the Reach, Dorne, and Harren's Ironborn invading the Riverlands. Argilac himself was once a great warrior, but he was getting old, his hair going gray, and crucially, his only heir was a daughter.
Vulnerable, then.
And the other neighbor, Harren the Black.
King of the Isles and the Rivers, House Hoare, ruled the Riverlands from this monstrous new castle he was building, Harrenhal. Infamous for his cruelty. Obsessed with that castle for 40 years.
40 years building one castle. An absolute behemoth. Supposedly impregnable, Harren was feared everywhere. Ruled through terror, basically.
Okay, so you have an aging Storm King worried about his legacy, and a cruel tyrant building an unbeatable fortress right next door.
Yeah.
Feels like something had to give.
And it did. Argilac, feeling the heat from Harren, made the first move towards Aegon. He offered Aegon his daughter's hand in marriage.
Smart move, trying to get a Dragon Lord ally.
Potentially. He also offered a huge chunk of land as her dowry, basically everything east of the God's Eye River from the Trident down to the Blackwater Rush. He wanted Aegon as a buffer state between him and Harren.
Makes sense. But Aegon, he already had 2 wives.
Right. So he turned down the marriage offer. Politely, maybe. But then he pointed out that those lands Argilac was offering weren't actually his to give away anymore. They'd been under Harren's control for a generation.
Ouch, that must have stung Argilac's pride.
Probably. But Aegon didn't stop there. He made a counteroffer. He said, okay, I'll take those lands, but you also have to give me Massey's Hook and all the territory south to the Windwater River.
Upping the ante.
Hmm.
And the marriage part.
Ah, yes. The kicker. Aegon proposed the pact be sealed by marrying Argilac's daughter to Orys Baratheon.
Orys, Aegon's childhood friend.
Yeah.
The one rumored to be his bastard half-brother.
The very same. Aegon called him his base-born friend in the offer.
Oh boy. Offering a bastard's hand for a Storm King's daughter. How did Argilac take that? Let me guess. Not well.
Not well is an understatement. Argilac the Arrogant flew into a rage. Totally insulted. His response was memorable.
What did he do?
He had Aegon's envoy seized, had the man's hands chopped off,
No, serious.
sent them back to Aegon in a box with a message. These are the only hands your bastard shall have of me.
Wow, that's a declaration of war, basically. Standing back the hand. Paints a picture of Argilac, doesn't it?
Yep.
Prideful. Unbending.
Absolutely. No compromise there.
So what was Aegon's response? Did he fly into a rage too? Send back something worse?
Nope. Aegon, true to form, was quiet, made no immediate reply. Instead, he called his council, summoned his allies, the Valerians, Celtigars, Lord Massey, Lord Barriman.
Planned his move.
Exactly. And interestingly, the texts say he went to the castle, stepped on Dragonstone, and prayed with his sisters, something he wasn't really known for before. Then, on the 7th day, the ravens flew.
The famous message.
The message to every king, lord, and great house in Westeros. From this day forth, only one king. Bend the knee, keep your lands, take up arms, be destroyed. Simple, direct, world-changing.
And just like that, the conquest begins. He lands at the Blackwater Rush. Small force, really. Hundreds, maybe a few thousand.
Relatively small, yeah.
Yeah.
And crucially, the landing spot where King's Landing would eventually rise was pretty much undefended. Claimed by both Harren and Argilac, but the local lords there, they didn't have much love for Harren the Black.
Smart landing spot then. Easy foothold. What was the first move?
Build a fort. Simple log and earth thing on the highest hill, the Aegon Fort. Then he sent his sisters out. Rhaenys on Meraxes took Rosby without a fight. Easy submission.
And Visenya.
Visenya on Vhagar flew to Stokeworth. They tried to shoot a few crossbow bolts at her. Bad idea. Visenya just set the keep's roof on fire. They submitted pretty quick after that.
Message received. Don't shoot at dragons. What about their first actual battle?
That came when Lord Darklyn of Duskendale and Lord Mooten of Maidenpool marched south with about 3,000 men. Aegon sent Orys Baratheon to hit them on the road, and then Aegon himself came down on Balerion.
Dragon intervention. I'm guessing it wasn't much of a fight.
Pretty one-sided, yeah. Both lords killed. Their sons and heirs surrendered immediately. Visenya collected all the gold and valuables from Duskendale, swelling the war chest, but Aegon ordered no sacking. Keep the small folk on side.
Ah, that calculated clemency again. Force, then reward for submission. Smart. So he sets up court in this little wooden fort.
The Aegon Fort, yeah. Crude but functional. He confirmed the defeated lords in their lands, accepting their oaths. Rewarded his key supporters too. Daemon Valerion, master of ships. Tristan Massey, master of laws. Crispian Celtigar, master of coin. Establishing the new regime.
In Orys Baratheon, the guy whose marriage offer started the whole thing.
Aegon proclaimed him my shield, my stalwart, my strong right hand, the very first hand of the king.
The first hand, wow. And it was here they unveiled the new banner. The three-headed dragon.
Exactly. The red three-headed dragon breathing fire on a black field. A new symbol for a new dynasty, not just old Valyria. Visenya placed the Valerian steel circlet, studded with rubies, on Aegon's head.
And Rhaenys declared him king.
She did. Aegon, first of his name, king of all Westeros, and shield of his people. The dragons roared, the lords cheered, but the sources say the small folk shouted loudest. They saw him as a protector, maybe.
Interesting. A king for the common people, perhaps? But the other kings? They weren't cheering, I bet.
Definitely not. Harren and Argilac were already mustering their armies. Out west, King Mern of the Reach and King Lorne of the Westerlands formed an alliance. Dorne offered an alliance, but as equals, which Aegon wouldn't accept.
What about the Vale in the north?
The Vale, under Queen Regent Shara Arryn, offered Aegon land if he helped them against Harren. And up in Winterfell, King Torrhen Stark was holding worried councils, trying to figure out what to do. The whole continent was buzzing.
So Aegon doesn't wait. He splits his forces.
3 main thrusts. Orys, Baratheon, and Rhaenys, with Meraxes, head south towards Storm's End to deal with Argilac.
Okay.
The Targaryen fleet, now under a new admiral since Daemon Valerian was dead, sails north to the Vale, with Visenya and Vhagar providing air support.
And Aegon himself.
He marches northwest, towards the God's Eye Lake and the biggest prize, Harrenhal.
A bold plan. Did it go smoothly?
Not entirely. Orys ran into ambushes from Storm King loyalists. Yeah, lost quite a few men. The Targaryen fleet got smashed again off Gulltown by the Arryn fleet and their Braavosi allies. Aegon himself was attacked twice by Harren's sons near the God's Eye.
So setbacks. But then, the dragons.
Then the dragons. Visenya arrived and burned the Arryn fleet at anchor. Rhaenys used Meraxes to sweep through the forest near Storm's End, setting them ablaze, routing Argilac's ambushing forces. And Balerion descended on Harren's longboats when they tried another attack, wiping them out along with Harren's remaining sons. The dragons just changed the whole equation.
It's like a cheat code for warfare. And meanwhile, Harren's own people were turning against him.
Yes, that was huge. Harren the Black had been so brutal, especially during the 40 years building Harrenhal, working thousands to death, taxing lords into poverty. The River Lords had had enough.
So they rebelled.
Led by Lord Edmund Tully of Riverrun. He declared for Aegon, raised the Targaryen dragon banner over his castle. Soon, other river lords, Mallister, Bracken, Blackwood, they all joined him. Harren's cruelty came back to bite him hard.
Politics and pragmatism winning Aegon allies. So Harren finds himself besieged in Harrenhal, his own lords fighting against him outside.
Exactly. He retreated behind his massive walls. Harrenhal was the biggest castle ever built. 5 colossal towers, incredibly thick walls, huge stockpiles of food. Harren genuinely believed he was safe. Stone doesn't burn, right?
Famous last words. Aegon arrives. Does he try to talk first?
He does. Aegon, with Edmund Tully beside him, parlayed with Harren under a peace banner. Harren came out, old but still fierce in his black armor.
What was said? Do we know?
The accounts are legendary. Aegon offers terms. Yield now, and you may remain as Lord of the Iron Islands. Yield now, and your sons will live to rule after you. I have 8,000 men outside your walls.
And Harren's reply, still defiant.
Utterly defiant. What is outside my walls is of no concern to me. Those walls are strong and thick.
Then Aegon says the line.
But not so high as to keep out dragons. Dragons fly.
Chilling. And Harren's retort.
I built in stone. Stone does not burn. Aegon's final word before turning away. When the sun sets, your line shall end.
Goosebumps. And did it.
Just as he said. As dusk fell, Aegon mounted Balerion, flew high above the castle, just a speck against the clouds. Then he plunged down. Not outside the walls. Inside.
Inside Harrenhal.
Inside. Unleashed Balerion's black fire onto the castle itself. Harren was right. Stone doesn't burn easily. But wood roofs, tapestries, food stores, people, they burn just fine.
Oh God, the whole place just went up.
The river lords watching outside said the 5 great towers glowed red against the night like giant candles. Stone cracked, melted, ran down the walls like wax. Harren and all his sons died in the inferno. House Hoare was wiped out. Finished.
Gone. In one night. What happened then?
The next day, Aegon accepted the surrender of the castle garrison. He took the fealty of Edmund Tully, naming him Lord Paramount of the Trident, the new great lord of the Riverlands. And the swords of Harren's dead men, many melted and twisted by dragonfire, were gathered up and sent back to the Aegon fort.
A message. A very clear, very grim message.
Yeah.
What about Argilac down south? Did he hear about Harrenhal?
He did. And his reaction was typically proud. He supposedly roared he wouldn't die, cooked inside his castle like a suckling pig. He chose to ride out and meet Orys Baratheon in open battle.
Giving up the advantage of Storm's End's massive walls. Bold. Or foolish.
Maybe both. Rhaenys, on Meraxes, had scouted Argilac's army and gave Orys a full report. Orys picked a good ground on some hills south of Bronzegate.
So the battle begins. The last storm, they call it.
That's right. It started during a massive thunderstorm. Driving rain, howling wind, blowing right into the faces of Orys' men. Argilac actually had the advantage initially, despite being outnumbered almost 2-1.
Really? So it was a proper fight.
Oh yeah, bloody and hard fought. Argilac led charge after charge up the muddy slopes. His knights were getting bogged down, but they were pushing Ori's back.
But then
Rhaenys.
Rhaenys and Meraxes arrived, swooped down through the storm, unleashing dragonfire into the teeth of the Storm King's charges. Horses panicked, men broke ranks, chaos. Argilac himself was thrown from his horse.
But he kept fighting. He did. Got back up, fought on foot. Orys Baratheon saw him, rallied some men, and cut his way through to the Old King. Found him holding off half a dozen attackers.
Did Orys just cut him down?
No, Orys actually dismounted, met him man-to-man, offered him one last chance to yield. Argilac just cursed him and charged. Orys killed him in single combat. The last Durrandon king died fighting.
End of a dynasty. What happened to Storm's End and Argilac's daughter?
The Stormlanders pretty much gave up after Argilac fell. His daughter, Argella, tried to hold Storm's End, declared herself Storm Queen, swore she'd die defending it.
Brave. Did she?
Her own garrison didn't fancy dying with her. They mutinied, gagged her, chained her up, and delivered her to Orys Baratheon's camp, naked.
Jeez. What did Orys do?
Now here's another example of that Targaryen policy. Orys didn't take advantage. He cut her chains himself, wrapped his own cloak around her, gave her wine, and spoke gently, praising her father's courage in battle.
Showing respect to the defeated.
Exactly. And then he took the Durrandon sigil, the crowned stag, as his own, took their words, "Ours is the fury," took Storm's End as his seat, and took Argella as his wife. Founded House Baratheon right there.
Wow. So he marries the daughter of the man he just killed, takes his castle, his banner, his words. That's efficient empire building.
It certainly cemented his legitimacy in the Stormlands. A mix of conquest and continuity.
So, Riverlands secured under Tully, Stormlands under Baratheon, 2 kingdoms down. Who's next? The other kings must be sweating.
Oh, definitely. King Torrhen Stark is mobilizing the north. Queen Shara Arryn in the Vale is fortifying her defenses. She even tried a different tactic with Aegon.
What did she do?
Sent him her portrait, offered to marry him herself, make him protector of the Vale if he named her son Ronald as his heir.
Another marriage proposal. Did Aegon consider it?
Apparently not. He already had 2 queens, pointed out she was quite a bit older than him. A faded flower, as the account rather unkindly puts it, so no deal there.
Ouch. Rejected again. But the biggest immediate threat wasn't the Vale or the North, was it? It came from the West.
Right. The 2 richest kingdoms, the Westerlands and the Reach, decided to team up. King Loren Lannister of Casterly Rock and King Mern, the 9th Gardener of Highgarden.
House Gardener. We don't hear much about them later.
There's a reason for that. They combined their armies, marched out together. This was the biggest host Westeros had ever seen. 55,000 men, including 5,000 mounted knights. They called it their Iron Fist.
55,000?
Aw.
Against Aegon's maybe 10 or 11,000 at this point? Those are terrible odds.
On paper, yes. Aegon flew out to meet them, bringing his recently sworn river lords and Stormlanders. His queens, Visenya and Rhaenys, joined him with Vhagar and Meraxes.
The whole family. Where did they meet?
On these wide open plains south of the Blackwater River, perfect ground for a massive cavalry charge. But Aegon noticed something important.
What was that?
It hadn't rained in weeks. The grass, the fields of wheat waiting for harvest, all tinder dry.
Uh-oh. I think I see where this is going.
Kings Mern and Loren were confident. Their plan was simple. Use their massive numbers, envelop Aegon's smaller army, and smash the center with their heavy knights, the Iron Fist. Aegon put Lord John Mouton of Maidenpool in command on the ground. He, Visenya, and Rhaenys took to the air.
So the battle begins. The Field of Fire.
The Field of Fire. The charge of the Gardener and Lannister knights was overwhelming at first. They smashed into Aegon's lines, broke through in places. It looked like they might win through sheer weight.
But the dragons.
Yeah. Aegon, Visenya, and Rhaenys attacked together. They didn't just burn the knights. They set the dry fields behind the enemy lines on fire. And upwind?
Oh, clever. The wind.
The wind fanned the flames into a massive inferno. Smoke choked them, fire surrounded them, horses panicked, men were blinded, trampled. Thousands burned alive in their armor. It was a slaughter, an absolute nightmare.
How many died?
Over 4,000 burned to death. Another 1,000 killed by sword or spear as they tried to flee. Tens of thousands more suffered horrific burns. King Mern Gardener died. All his sons died. His grandsons, his brothers, his cousins. House Gardener was wiped out. Extinguished in a single afternoon.
Gone. Just like House War. What about the Lannisters? King Loren.
King Loren Lannister survived. He managed to ride through the flames and escape, but he was captured the next day.
And Aegon's losses.
Fewer than 100 men. Visenya took an arrow in the shoulder, but that was about it. It was probably the most decisive and terrifying victory of the conquest. Showed that numbers meant nothing against dragons used smartly.
So Loren Lannister's captured. What does he do?
What could he do? He bent the knee, laid his sword and his crown at Aegon's feet, and Aegon, true to his word, lifted him up, confirmed him as Lord of Casterly Rock, and named him Warden of the West.
Forgiving your enemies if they submit. Consistent policy? What about the Reach, now that House Gardener was gone?
Many Reach lords surrendered immediately. Aegon flew to Highgarden, the Gardener's seat. He found it held by the castle steward, a man named Harlan Tyrell.
Tyrell. Ah, now that's a name we know.
Indeed. Harlan Tyrell didn't try to fight. He opened the gates, yielded the castle peacefully, and swore fealty to Aegon.
Smart man. How did Aegon reward him?
Handsomely. Aegon granted Harlan Tyrell Highgarden itself, made him Lord Paramount of the Manor, giving him dominion over all the former Gardener vassals, and named him Warden of the South. A steward raised to lordship, all based on loyalty and pragmatism.
Another new power structure emerges. So west and south secured. Aegon planned to head further south to Old Town and Dorne, but then news from the north.
Exactly. Word arrived. King Torrhen Stark had crossed the Neck, the marshy border between north and south, with an army of 30,000 Northmen.
30,000, that's a big army. What did Aegon do?
He immediately turned north again, flew ahead on Balerion, summoned all his forces, the Lannisters, the Tyrells, the Tullys, the Baratheons, all the newly sworn lords. They gathered by the banks of the Trident River.
So Torrhen Stark arrives at the Trident and finds... what?
He finds an army maybe half again as large as his own waiting for him. Men from every corner of southern Westeros united under one banner. And circling overhead, Balerion, Meraxes, and Vhagar, all three dragons.
That must have been a sobering sight, especially after hearing about Harrenhal and the Field of Fire.
You can imagine. Torrhen knew what dragons could do. His lords were divided. Some wanted to attack anyway, die bravely. Others wanted to fall back to Moat Cailin, the North's great defensive fortress.
What about Torrhen's bastard brother, Brandon Snow? Didn't he have a plan?
He did. Brandon Snow offered to sneak into Aegon's camp at night and kill the dragons while they slept.
Whoa. Could he have done it?
Who knows? Dragons are dangerous even asleep. But Torrhen Stark chose a different path.
He didn't want to risk it.
He saw the potential devastation. He sent Brandon Snow across the river, yes, but not to kill dragons, to negotiate, along with 3 maesters.
Diplomacy, not assassination.
They talked all night, sending messages back and forth across the Trident. The next morning, Torrhen Stark made his decision. He rode across the river himself, knelt before Aegon Targaryen, laid the ancient crown of the Kings of Winter at Aegon's feet, and swore fealty.
He bent the knee, without a fight.
Without a single battle. Aegon raised him up, confirmed him as Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North, king no more. He's remembered forever after as the king who knelt.
Some might see that as shameful, maybe.
But, as the histories point out, no Northmen left their burned bones beside the Trident that day. Their swords weren't melted and twisted like Harren's garrison. Torrhen saved his people from the fate of the Gardeners and the Whores. A wise move, arguably.
A pragmatic peace. So the north is in. What about the Vale? Queen Shara and her portrait.
With the north secured, Aegon turned south again. Visenya flew ahead to the Vale of Arryn. Queen Shara had done everything she could, militarily strengthen Gulltown, manned the Bloody Gate, reinforced the way castles up the Giants' Lands to the Eyrie itself.
The Eyrie. Supposedly impregnable too, right? High up in the mountains.
Exactly. But castles, gates, mountains, they don't mean much to a dragon. Visenya didn't bother with sieges or battles. She just flew Vhagar straight up and landed in the Erie's inner courtyard.
I landed. Bypassed everything.
Bypassed everything. And the surrender itself was remarkable.
How so?
Visenya found the young king, Ronald Arryn, sitting right there in the courtyard. He wasn't scared. He was apparently fascinated by the dragon. Reports say Visenya might have even put him on her knee.
A boy king meeting a dragon rider. What did he say?
The story goes he asked his mother, Queen Shara, "Mother, can I go flying with the lady?" No threats needed. Shara saw Vhagar in her courtyard, saw her son enchanted, and knew it was over.
So she surrendered.
She came out, handed over the 3 iron crowns, her regent's coronet, her son's small crown, and the ancient falcon crown of the Mountain Kings, ordered her garrison to lay down their swords. And little Ronald Arryn got his wish.
He got to fly.
Visenya reportedly took him for 3 circuits around the summit of the Giant's Lance on Vhagar's back. He landed a boy king and stood up a little lord, a completely bloodless, almost magical submission. Again, showing that nuanced approach.
Incredible. So North, Vale, Riverlands, Stormlands, Westerlands, Reach. That's 6 kingdoms down.
Oh, yeah,
Zach Duran barely went there, right? Did she have such an easy time?
No, Dorne was different. Rhaenys flew Meraxes over the Red Mountains, bypassing the Dornish armies waiting in the Prince's Pass. She flew to Vaith, God's Grace, Planky Town.
And found them empty.
Mostly deserted, just women, children, old men left behind. When she asked where their lords were, they'd only say, away. It was eerie, like ghosts.
Where were they hiding?
Yeah.
Guerrilla tactics.
Refusing to give battle on Targaryen terms, Rhaenys eventually flew all the way to Sunspear, the seat of House Martell, and there she finally found someone waiting.
The ruler of Dorne.
Princess Maria Martell, 80 years old by this point, blind, mostly bald, overweight, known rather cruelly as the Yellow Toad of Dorne. But she hadn't fled.
What happened? What did she say?
Rhaenys demanded she yield, like the others. Maria's reply is legendary. I will not fight you, nor will I kneel to you. Dorne has no king. Tell your brother that.
Dorne has no king. Interesting phrasing. Defiant.
Rhaenys, probably frustrated, threatened her with the usual fire and blood.
And Maria's response.
Even more famous. Your words, she said. Ours are unbowed, unbent, unbroken. You may burn us, my lady, but you will not bend us, break us, or make us bow. This is Dorne. You are not wanted here. Return at your peril.
Wow. Unbowed, unbent, unbroken. She basically told a dragon rider to get lost.
She did, and Rhaenys left. Dorne refused to fight Aegon's kind of war, and for that they remained unconquered, a major exception to the Targaryen sweep. It took another century and different methods to bring Dorne into the fold.
A testament to their stubbornness. Or maybe a different kind of strength. So while Rhaenys is getting stonewalled in Dorne, Aegon himself arrives at Old Town.
Yes, Old Town, the biggest city in Westeros at the time. Seat of the Hightowers, one of the oldest and richest families, and, crucially, the center of the Faith of the Seven, home of the High Septon and the Starry Sept.
So a major political, economic, and religious center.
Yeah.
How did they react? Did they fight?
They considered it, but the High Septon had a vision. When news of Aegon's landing first arrived, he locked himself in the Starry Sept for 7 days and nights, praying for guidance.
What did he see?
The story says the crone, one of the aspects of the Seven, granted him a vision. If Old Town resisted Aegon and his dragons, the city would burn, utterly destroyed.
A divine warning. Did the ruling lord listen? Lord Hightower.
Lord Manfred Hightower was known as a cautious, pious man. He had sons serving in the faith. He heeded the High Septon's warning. He decided not to fight.
Another bloodless submission.
Yes. When Aegon marched towards Old Town, Lord Hightower didn't man the walls. He rode out to meet Aegon on the road, offered him his sword, the keys to the city, and his oath of fealty. Some accounts even say he offered his youngest daughter's hand in marriage, though Aegon politely declined.
Smart move by Hightower. Saved his city.
And Aegon gained huge legitimacy. 3 days later, a massive ceremony was held in the Starry Sept itself. The High Septon himself anointed Aegon with the 7 oils, placed a crown on his head.
Not the ruby circlet. A different crown.
A different, grander crown, likely. And the High Septon proclaimed him Aegon of House Targaryen, the first of his name, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, Lord of the 7 Kingdoms, and Protector of the Realm.
That's the full title. King of the Andals, Rhoynar, First Men, Lord of the 7 Kingdoms, even though Dorne wasn't conquered.
Even though Dorne wasn't conquered yet, it was an assertion of his claim over the whole continent. And this coronation, witnessed by lords from all over, attended by maesters from the Citadel, right there in Old Town. This became the official start date.
So that's why Year 1 AC is 2 years after the landing. The High Septon's blessing made it official history.
Precisely. It wasn't just conquest by force, it was sanctioned by the dominant religion. Hugely important for long-term rule. It's the moment the maesters use as the historical touchstone.
Okay, that finally clicks into place. So Aegon is crowned, legitimized. Where does he decide to set up his capital? Old Town, Dragonstone.
Everyone probably expected one of those, but Aegon surprised them again. He chose to go back to that first landing spot, that muddy patch by the Blackwater Rush with the 3 hills where they built the crude Aegon Fort.
Back to the beginning. Why there?
Maybe symbolic, maybe strategic, a central location he built himself, not inheriting someone else's power base. He proclaimed that this spot would be his royal seat, named it King's Landing.
King's Landing is born, and the final symbol of his conquest, the big one.
The ultimate symbol. He ordered the swords of all his defeated enemies collected, not just herons, but thousands more from the field of fire, from other battles, swords surrendered, swords taken from the dead.
What did he do with them?
Had them sent to King's Landing, heated in the fires of Balerion the Black Dread, then beaten, twisted, hammered together by smiths into a throne.
The Iron Throne.
The Iron Throne, a great misshapen, monstrous chair of fused sword blades, jagged, sharp, uncomfortable. A perilous seat, as it's often called, a constant reminder of how the Seven Kingdoms were forged by fire and blood.
What an incredible story. So you see, Aegon, Visenya, and Rhaenys,
Yeah.
they really did hammer together a realm. It wasn't just dragons burning things, was it? It was this mix of power, strategy, politics, knowing when to be brutal, knowing when to show mercy.
Absolutely. They forged one realm out of 7 warring kingdoms, well, 6 and a defiant Dorne for a while, but it was a monumental achievement, however you look at it.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How something we read as a straightforward historical event, Aegon's Conquest, is actually this incredibly complex web. Prophecies, individual choices, family dynamics, even the weather playing a part of the field of fire.
It's never just one thing. Power isn't just seized, it's consolidated through a whole range of actions, some brutal, some surprisingly subtle.
So what's the takeaway for you listening to this? What does this deep dive into the Conquest really tell us about how power works, how legends are made? Maybe it's less about just having dragons and more about knowing when to use them, when to negotiate, when to accept a surrender, and yeah, sometimes just knowing when to let a curious child go for a ride.